Hello and welcome along to the West Yorkshire Football Show. We're here to talk all things Leeds United with myself, Stephen Brown, and joining me as ever, Jason Booker. If you watch on live, please get your likes in, get your comments in, get subscribed to the channel, and please do the same again later. Lots and lots to talk about as the Premier League does return at the weekend. We're going to be talking about the international break. We're going to be talking about Daniel Farke. We're going to be talking, of course, about the Aston Villa game as well. Lots to get into. Jay, international break. Now, normally international breaks, I'm kind of, what a load of nonsense, absolute rubbish, can't be bothered with it. And pretty much for England, it was, phenomenal qualifying campaign when you look at it, of course, but I'm not too excited about it. But I've got to say, Scotland and Ireland, incredible international breaks for them. The Scotland game the other night, absolutely incredible. And it at least gave us some kind of football excitement during this break. But did you manage to catch any of it or anything?
Funnily enough, I'm very similar to you. I don't really ever get engrossed by the internationals now. Outside of the tournaments, to be honest with you, the England games mean less than nothing. I usually catch the highlights just out of a kind of morbid interest of wanting to know who scored, who's playing well, that kind of thing. But I don't really take too much notice. We've won 8 from 8, is it? And we've not conceded a goal. It's just not competitive, is it? I'm not going to get engrossed in that. So, yeah, the other old nations, I'm a bit more on the side of loose opinions on this, that I'm not really bothered for them being successful. But that being said, they were both, Ireland and Scotland, they were both involved in kind of mega buster games, weren't they, where they kind of won the games late. And the Ireland one, especially for me, the Troy Parrott hat trick, what a moment, and the last minute winner of that. It actually ticked over the added times when the ball came into the box. It was literally the last chance to win, and they did it in Hungary. They did it away from home, which is massive, isn't it? That's tough. McTominay's turned into prime Hullet, and he's over.
What a guy.
Ballon d'Or goals from the edge of the box with an overhead kick. Fair play to them. And Wales as well. I know Wales, I think I've got a playoff spot, but they win 7-1. It was funny, I've just seen Gavin's comment. I didn't even know that Ampadu had not played the game. It was completely out of the squad, so I don't know whether he's injured. That's a topic we can maybe pick up on, but he wasn't even in the squad. I just had a quick look. So interesting international break, and it's nice to see it actually be exciting. Let's say,
So. Exactly. And as Gav says here, it's cold. It is indeed. I've got a little extra heater on in the room, so I don't freeze away. Leeds, welcome along. Hello, everyone. Thanks for your comments there. Good stuff. Yeah. A bit of a mixed bag for one of our players, though. Al Tanaka. I don't know if you saw that, Jay, but he. I think he's broke another player's leg or ankle. And it's a real nasty one. Obviously, your sympathy goes with the player who's injured, but also, as the perpetrator, obviously, he's not a dirty player, or you certainly wouldn't, you never intend that. But it's just one of those psychological things, isn't it, Jay? Where you go, does that play into the head? I remember going back to Strout with Harvey Elliott, and he was never the same, was he, for a long, long time after that?
Yeah.
That's. I suppose the club will be putting an arm around him as well and trying to help him with that. But it is horrible, isn't it? It's a real horrible one. Are you worried for that having any impact on Al Tanaka going forward?
We'd argue that Pascal's never been the same since.
Yeah.
You would argue that. Like, he's certainly been a lot less aggressive than he was since that challenge. So, who knows? Maybe he's never fully recovered. I'm not overly worried, because I think most times most players will kind of see it as part and parcel of being in the game. It's a contact sport. These things can happen. Twisting and turning, impact challenges, like they do happen. So you'd hope that it doesn't impact him, but he does appear to be that kind of character where it might play on his mind for a period of time. But we'll only know once he kind of gets into the game. There's no chance that he would have meant any malice by it. These things happen. The Pascal Stroik one's a great example. It was actually a great tackle. I think it's one of the worst decisions I've ever seen, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I know I've spoken about it before, but he was sent off for that challenge. It was a great challenge, and he was sent off after the referee realised that Harvey Elliott was injured. He was on at the time.
It would just, honestly, it summed up that whole period for us.
Yeah,
didn't it? It was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
We'll be interested. Another one I saw as well, Jay, might be interested in, is massive win for America over a certain Uruguay, and it's really going all wrong for Bielsa at the moment as Uruguay boss, and apparently he's under severe pressure. There's a lot of talk that he's lost the media, the fans, the players, and there's a big chance he may end up not taking Uruguay to the World Cup as a result. I think this ties back to, I remember Luis Suarez doing an interview and he absolutely hammered Bielsa into it, and it almost feels like he's never quite got a full grip on it. However, I would say he's had some of Uruguay's best results in years. I think the proof is still in the pudding. They're going to the World Cup. So it seems a bizarre one. You think of it as a perfect match, but there's a potential that I swear, if Bielsa had been managing Uruguay at World Cup, I would anyway, but I'd be watching their games with fierce interest. It would have been fascinating to watch Bielsa ball at the World Cup. Hopefully we will still see that. I know there were some naughty people on Twitter, as soon as it was rumoured about Bielsa leaving, and obviously the pressure Farke'S under. Could there possibly be a reunion? Naughty question for you, Jay, playing devil's advocate. We do let go of Farke, Bielsa becomes available. Would you want us to go there?
That's a cheeky. I think if I was given this decision and I had to make a decision, I would of course say yes to replay that back. Of course, the guy's my hero, and I absolutely loved the period of time under him. And watching the football again would be unbelievable. It made me fall in love with football in a way that I didn't even know existed. So I'd find it hard to say no. I do think that you've got to be careful going back, and I think that it would unfortunately end in a tarnish of maybe the first time around. That had been my real worry.
Yeah.
I do think, as much as I love Bielsa, I do think he's got a shelf life. And I think, he's never, as you said, really nailed it down at Uruguay. No. There's always been this underlying feeling of I don't know, resistance from some of the players, for whatever reason. And you're right. I watched them in the final of the Copa America when I was on holiday. It was unbelievable. And I think they ended up losing in extra time or penalties. Can't remember. They were definitely late. It went really late. He's had really good success with them. He's got them playing some good stuff, but it wouldn't surprise me if he sees an exit there fairly soon. Probably, either before or after the World Cup.
Yeah, indeed. I think I'm likely to agree. Gav says here, Bielsa Day's gone for us. Sniper wouldn't want him to fail and kill his legacy, and I think. I would take it. I'll be honest, because I love Bielsa. I would still say let's do it, but I would be. He's also. He's 70 now as well, and obviously time comes into it and everything. But fascinating scenario to kind of think about. But I'm right. I wouldn't want that first run of his being tarnished by a disappointing follow up.
I think these comments are fair, and I think you'd see a majority of Leeds fans feel the same way about it. Yet then we have to try and move on from his time as well.
Yeah,
because a lot of Leeds fans haven't. They haven't. Yeah. I talk about it all the time. The Bielsa shadow casts far and wide over this club, and certainly over the door of the manager. The current manager. I know we're going to get into it, but the current manager, I think, would be heralded just as much of a hero as Bielsa if Bielsa had never come through the door. It would. So,
yeah. I agree. Interesting news elsewhere as well, Jay, during the international break. Two of our former players and Bielsa stalwarts, Liam Cooper, Patrick Bamford, they've got themselves new clubs down there in South Yorkshire. One for Sheffield United, Bamford, and then one for Sheffield Wednesday in Liam Cooper. Now, Bamford, we'll start with that. Obviously, just hilarious, isn't it? Obviously the Wilder chant and everything like that. He's got a contract till January, so he hasn't got a great amount of time there. Obviously they're massively struggling. But as always, I mean, I'd love to see him do well. I know it's for the Blades, but for Patrick, I would love to see him do well and get a full contract there. Do you think that'll work? Is that a move you put your money on to work, or do you think the issue is his availability, isn't it?
I find it a bit surreal, if I'm honest. I find it a little bit odd. There were big rumours of Getafe, there were another Spanish club in, and then, MLS got talked about, and then all of a sudden he pops up in November with a month deal at Sheffield United, and he must be on peanuts. And I mean, I know he's been covered handsomely by Leeds, finishing his contract early and whatnot, so he'll be paid out for the rest of the season, but it feels a weird one because he's not 35, 36. He's still early 30s. You'd still think he's got another 2, 3, 4 years in him yet. Yet he's accepted a month deal, and Sheffield United only deem it right to do a month. So yeah, I have a lot of questions about his fitness. I have a lot of questions about what he's going to be able to offer. I mean, he's had no pre-season now, or very little of it. He's had no game time in the meantime. I'm sure he's been keeping himself fit, but just seems a real odd one. It seems a real odd one to me. I wouldn't imagine that would see that extend past January, but I could be wrong. It depends on how he does and what he can contribute, I guess. But it is an interesting one with him, only a couple of months ago, singing the Chris Wilder songs to now be pulling up alongside him. That's football, isn't it? That is how football works sometimes. So, yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And then the other Sheffield team Wednesday, Liam Cooper. It's funny actually because there was an article in The Athletic with Liam Cooper, I think on the Monday or something, and he was talking about being an out of work footballer, and then literally 12 hours later he was announced at Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously we know Wednesday, difficult situation there, and Cooper going in is a leader. We know that vast experience. What do you make of that one?
Well, that transfer has been rumoured since the summer. It's literally been going on and on and on and on since he got released by forget the team, but over in Europe, and he I think it's not happened because of the difficulties at Sheffield Wednesday. They've not been able to sign anybody up until now, so I think I think it's a good move for him. It brings him back to Yorkshire. I think obviously Sheffield Wednesday's expectations will be to just try and be competitive this season, rebuild, get relegated, and then go again next season. And I think Liam Cooper in League One Liam representing coming back, I think next season, because I'm sure that he probably is expecting to be kept around for another season, would be his ideal kind of world in this, maybe even become captain if Barry Bannon moves on or whatever. I think makes a lot of sense. I think him and Barry Bannon will probably have spoken in the build-up to this, both Scottish internationals, teammates, they'll know each other. I just think it makes a lot of sense, and I think it's a nice move for him, and I hope he does well. I don't know, I really like to grind to Sheffield Wednesday. I hate Sheffield United, but I haven't got really an active grind where Wednesday are concerned, so I hope Coops does well. He's arguably our best captain since the Chief, so he embodied everything about Leeds United. He were an absolute Bielsa stalwart. He deserves his testimonial as well. I know it was kind of clocked at about 10 years as he left. The guy was an absolute true leader. Every manager that came in, including Bielsa, kept him as captain. He's a modern day legend. Is Liam Cooper? He's a modern day legend. It'll get bandied about too much nowadays. All that word. But Liam Cooper is a modern day legend, without a doubt.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's funny to see all these Bielsa stalwarts kind of what they're getting up to. You've got Pablo over in Spain now; he's a manager, and it's just interesting. I think we'll always have a fascination with them, won't they? And for a lot of players that left the club over the 16 years since we're at the Premier League, it's like, yeah, see you later, whatever. Obviously, there were ones that hurt, like Snodgrass and Bedford. There were ones like that you would keep an eye on. But I think all the Bielsa boys, like, it's just one of those things. I think we'll always keep tabs on them and be interested to see what they do, because it was such a special period of time. So yeah, best of luck to them both. Hopefully they can do something good there.
100%. You should be able to look back and wish players, especially during that chapter of our history, all the best. You know, I know there's a bit of sour feeling around the likes of Jack Harrison and a couple of others that have kind of gone on in different directions in certain ways. But, you know, the sort, like Luke Ayling, every time I see him do well at Middlesbrough, I'm buzzing for him. Yeah, I've got no real connection to Middlesbrough either way. Like, I don't want them to do well or do poorly. And every time I see Luke Ayling do well, I'm absolutely buzzing for him. When he scored that last-minute equaliser the other day and he did the Robbie Keane again, like, I'm absolutely buzzing. So yeah, I think you've got to be able to keep the love for some of them players, because they will come back. They'll come back through the doors as ambassadors for this club. They all loved Leeds United, especially Dallas, Ayling, Coops, you know, there's Pat, I would put in that as well. Matthias Click, you know, Pablo, yeah. So they got us and we got them. So yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we're going to move on to a slightly different subject now. It's the content creator space. We're not obviously going to talk about specific individuals, specific channels, or anything like that. We're going to try and give our take on the whole space at the moment. But Daniel Farke did an interview with Sky earlier in the week, and it caused rumptions. He described the fan base as being emotional and said that after we beat West Ham, people were saying about, you know, Leeds were going to stay up, and then as soon as they lose a game, it's going to be relegation. And it now, when that interview dropped, I listen. I don't have a magic ball. A lot of my predictions are wrong, and I, you know, and I hold my hands up to that. And you know, it's easy to look back with hindsight, but I thought, oh, there's going to be a fallout from this. Even though I wasn't angry with it. I wasn't annoyed with the interview that Farke did. You know, for me, it was like standard kind of Farke talk. It was standard talk of a manager that's in a situation like that. I didn't personally see any problem with it, although, you know, a couple of the lines, you know, the emotional fan base, you know, we've heard that a lot. I get that, but I thought, oh, there's going to be a fallout from this. You know, you could see it immediately. People were retweeting it, quote tweeting it, and it's just given more ammunition to the kind of Farke out brigade. Now, for me personally, I'm still 2 weeks after the Forest game. I'll wake up one day and think, let's get behind him, and we're good at home, we can do this. Another day I'll be less sure. So I'm still very much kind of in the middle. I don't have a definitive Farke out or Farke in at the moment. And there's a bigger picture, you know, like we talked on the last show, where, you know, would you back our owners to get the next decision correct? So there's a lot of factors to it. Now, obviously, the content creator space, there was also a big reaction to this. There were slew of videos, which kind of, in my opinion, jumped on the bandwagon and emphasized that kind of Farke out kind of vibe that's going on. I think it kind of amplified that whole thing, this charge, and it feels almost like, Jay, we're on a roller coaster and we can't change the track when we're on it. It feels like we're heading to kind of Farke out, and a lot of the noise is kind of pushing that way. And then there were a couple of content creators that did push back, that have huge followings. And, you know, you can argue about how they've gone about that and the techniques they've used, but I do think it's important that there were voices against that kind of flow of, you know, Daniel Farke needs to go now and blah, blah, blah. I think it's important that you have that other viewpoint as well, because we were talking before that, you know, you're talking about channels that have 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 followers. They're so influential, so influential. And of course, I'm talking about the social media sphere. So they have a big impact on what fans are putting out there. And it's persuasive. It's really persuasive. I can sit and watch one of these content creators and change my mind, because they're good communicators. They've got a powerful message. You know, that's how it's done. That's how propaganda works. That's how it happens. But I think it's equally valuable that we have other opinions as well. But the space, Jay, seems to have become very toxic. I think we're getting channels going at each other. I think we're in a space now where, I don't know, there's a lot of tension. I think obviously, you know, because we're in, we're in a position where we've lost 2 games and we are down the bottom of the league and tensions are rising. It feels like we're in a bit of a kind of rocky state on that front as well. But I mean, what's your kind of take on this whole, well, first of all, the Farke interview itself and then the reaction to it?
Yeah, a lot to unpack there, but you're absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, where do I even start? Let's start with the interview. The interview was fine. What do you want him to say?
Yeah.
What are you expecting? You know,
Exactly.
is he not allowed to defend himself? What out of the interview that he said was incorrect? Seeing Gav's comment saying that he talks a lot of nonsense. I actually think he talks spot on. I think, if anything, Daniel Farke is too honest for his own good. You know, when he says that we're an emotional fan base, he's absolutely spot on. Now, I know a lot of fans don't like to hear it because he's kind of indirectly having a go at us. I don't see it as him having a go at us. I think he's just speaking facts. You know, if he was manager of West Brom, Norwich, Fulham, these other clubs that have bounced around in and around 15th to 20th over the last few years, they wouldn't be reacting like this. They wouldn't. Now, some of that comes with the fact that them clubs are smaller in stature. They don't have the same expectation. They haven't got the same scope. They haven't got the same potential. They haven't got the same history. They are quote unquote smaller clubs. I hear all of that, and you have to then take on board some of that with the fact of you've got the honour of managing Leeds United. Newcastle are the same. Yeah, and I would say that there'd have been times under Ashley and Steve Bruce, where other clubs and other fans of teams that were in and around that area of the pitch have just got on with it. And Steve Bruce has to say, well, I'm the manager of Newcastle. I'm very proud to be the manager of Newcastle. I've got to deal with the fan base. But ultimately, what he says is a fact. It's true. And at the minute, he finds himself in a situation where he's dealing with that expectant, passionate fan base, but doesn't have the resources to match their expectations. Every time I answer the question, or I ask the question of fans, what were your expectations before a ball was kicked? They avoid answering the question. And they do that because their expectations, if they're being realistic, were 16th or 17th at best. Some would have picked this squad to go down before a ball was kicked, regardless of the manager. But then they want to slam him regardless for the fact that he's not picking up results. It makes no sense. So yeah, the interview the other day was just a great opportunity for Farke'S to smash him even more for stuff that, in my opinion, I mean, I don't even think in my opinion, I think just factually were correct. I don't think he said anything out of order. The performances on the whole have been good, outside of the last two, I would say, and obviously Arsenal. But I want to kind of just wash Arsenal. The last two, I think he's fine, and I think he's accepted that. What do you want him to do? Do you want him to come on the interviews and say, we were disgraceful, we were so shit, rah, 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 rah. Like, no. He says the performance levels weren't good enough. They were below our standard. 2 tricky away games, which they were, by the way. You know, he then said that Brighton, very good side, never expected us to get anything from there really anyway. Nottingham Forest qualified for Europe last year. Only a few months ago, people were talking Forest into finishing 4th in the Premier League. Now, I think they were massively out of position, sure, but they're still not out of position from 4th to 19th. You know what I mean? There's a scope in the middle where Marinakis and their management changes and situations has played a huge part. So, yeah, I think everything that he said was right, mate. The content creator side of things, look, there's a lot of agenda pushing, bias pushing. There's obviously some personal elements that have gone on between some of the content creators as well, which then makes it a bit school playgroundy, if I'm honest. We will only ever, I think, me and you anyway, talk or mention individuals when it's in a positive light or to bring attention to something that they've said that then we're paraphrasing, because I think that's fair for us to do. You know, our reach isn't huge, but I would never want to sit here in front of people that do watch me and have them think, oh, he's just copied X person. I like to frame something. If it's something I've heard that was good somewhere else, I like to frame it to say, look, this is where I've heard it. But when it comes to negative connotations, I'm not going to sit here and individually name people. But the facts are is at the minute, the big content creators in this space are having, I'm going to say it, a negative impact on the fan base in the general sense. I think, and I've mentioned this on streams recently, I think the fan base are in a bit of a bad spot at the minute. I think the mentality of our fan base right now is not in a great place, and I find it bizarre. I am looking forward to Sunday's game. We get to play another Premier League game in which I'm hoping we're going to be competitive at home, and hopefully we get to win the game. I expected us to finish between 36 and 40 points at the beginning of the season. We're trending to do that. I expected it to be a slog. And at the minute, what the content creator space is doing in the mass, the big content creators, is making fans hate this season.
Yeah.
What did you expect before a ball was kicked? And I'll keep on saying that. And I just think it's really damaging. And I'll keep on coming on here in front of whoever will decide to watch us and try to encourage them as much as possible to enjoy what's happening in front of them. Again, in terms of perspective, outside of the Bielsa 9th season, this is the best we've ever had in the last 25 years since we got relegated from the Premier League. This is the best. You know, the 100 points last season was without a doubt the best season we've ever seen, and some people weren't happy with that. You know, the perspectives of some people and the expectations is just, it's killing their fun. It's killing their enjoyment of Leeds United and the journey that we find ourselves on right now. And yeah, we said it last week. You just have to be careful what you wish for. I'm going to stop talking because.
No, I do you know what? I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. I think that perfectly sums it up. That I think there's got to be an element we've got to start enjoying this ride a little bit. And you're absolutely spot on. I was so anxious ridden when we had Bielsa, and I kick myself sometimes. I go, why didn't I just enjoy it a bit more and just kind of shut off that negative voice and just try and enjoy it a bit more. So I think that's a really powerful message, and I think it's absolutely spot on. And hopefully we can, you know, when we come on here, we try and be balanced and we try and look at all sides of the argument there.
Just on that,
yeah.
Regardless of our consistent take in you know, mainly defending Farke over the last 2 years and supporting Farke, when the time comes that I see on the pitch a situation in which Farke should be sacked, I will come on here and say it. Regardless of what I said, you are not going to get me just standing on to an opinion that I had 6 months ago, 12 months ago, just for the hell of it. You know, if I see a change, I will say that. But losing 3-0 away at Brighton and losing 3-1 away at Forest in the Premier League, losing games in general, is not going to make me do that when I recognise the fact that this squad is a bottom 3 squad. I recognise that keeping us up is going to be an overachievement. It just is. So it's going to take a collapse of effort, especially at home. You know, this game at the weekend's huge. It's massive. Regardless of who it's against, it's massive. You know, even losing Sunday, as long as the performance is of an acceptable level, I'm not going to be like, oh, Farke's the worst thing in the world, he needs to go. You know, saw a comment further up. Some fans are hoping that we lose on Sunday. You need to get your head screwed on. You need to have a word with yourself, because the only thing that matters, or the only thing that should matter to all of us, is Leeds United, not your ego and not your opinion being proven right.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's like the shiny new toy thing as well. It's like the next is going to be the thing that delivers it, the next transfer, the next manager. You know, we're all a little bit like that. I think certainly, you know, it's cooked up from a media point of view as well. And, you know, you put something in the group a couple of days ago where it was Beckford interview, wasn't it? Talking about, you know, when we went up with Grayson and he was looking to get a new contract and Bates wouldn't offer him it. And, you know, the dark days are not that distant for us. You know, we were Sheffield Wednesday. You know, we were struggling and getting players on a free and trying to regroup. And, you know, last year we got 100 points and finished top of the championship. I mean, you know, 10 years ago, where were we? You know,
it's not an emotional fan base.
Yeah, well, exactly.
You know, exactly. I mean, the thing is with them times, and you're absolutely spot on, mate. There's a couple of things. Number one, a lot of the Leeds, the fans that are now kicking and screaming in the way that they weren't there then.
No.
They weren't interested. They didn't go to games, or they didn't participate in watching streams like this, or they weren't invested in the club in the same way. They'd lost touch, and Bielsa brought all that back, and you know, Radzonata brought all that back. And they forget. That's the truth as well. They forget. I mean, I've had conversations with fans where they want us just to throw all the money at it and to hell with the future. Like, what? I remember 2005 when we didn't have a pot to piss in, and we lost Aaron Lennon for £1 million, and we lost James Milner for next to nothing, and Alan Smith went to them, and I remember all that. You know, I mean, yeah, you then mentioned being like Sheffield Wednesday. I remember the League One -15. I were at all them games that season. It was unbelievable. I loved it. But
doing a Leeds, wasn't it?
yeah, doing a league.
Doing a Leeds, you know, bloody
Starting
hell.
on -15 points, and you know, we should have gone up that season. We finished in the playoffs and lost in the final against Donny. Like, I've seen it all. I've been to Kettering, I've been to Histon, and lost in the FA Cup. I've seen all the miserable times. I remember them all. For me, finishing on 100 points in the Championship. I mean, maybe, you know, people have been attacking me online, by the way, for my mentality.
Yeah.
For my mentality, and seeing that I've got a loser's mentality. No, I'm just a realistic Leeds fan that remembers all that pain and misery, and remembers the fact that throughout all of my adult life, my team has been in the Championship.
Yeah,
I recognise where we are in that journey. I want us to get back to Europe. I want to see us be like Newcastle. Of course I do. But just because I want it doesn't mean that it turns into reality overnight.
No, absolutely. 100%, 100%. Good stuff. Well, we've mentioned it already. Absolutely huge game at the weekend against Aston Villa. And yeah, it feels like a big one, Jay. And I think for me, the away form, you know, I mean, we've been so poor in those last two games, but the thing that I cling to is the home form and how we've performed in the home games. And that's what I'm kind of looking at, and that's what I'm hoping we see at the weekend. But I mean, for me, it almost feels like the performance has got to be there on Sunday. Yes, if it isn't, I do worry about how large that noise is. And I'll be honest, you know, I'll have question marks myself. You know, I'm not immune to it. But I mean, this feels like a real critical one, doesn't it, really?
Yeah. I'd argue it's probably as critical as a West Ham game. I think the West Ham game was massive. We turned up and we swept them aside in the first 20 minutes, and you know, we turned up. Villa are a much better side, and they are a much better side. They're on a better form at the minute, and you know, it seems like things are going back in the other direction. They've got a much better squad than us. Said this a few times this season, but 1 to 11, you'd pick them all. you would. So we've got to bridge that gap, and I do think the performance is huge, but we haven't seen a bad performance at home, Brownie. We haven't seen one bad performance at home. So I've got every faith and confidence that they can do that. And if we get swept aside 4-0 and there's a lack of direction there, lack of effort, and the players seem to have turned it in for the manager, then I'll come on in and we'll have a conversation about it. But I am not expecting to see that. If we lose the game, I'm expecting us to see us being outdone by quality. You know, I think of the Spurs game, we probably deserved at least a point out of that game, but the quality told. Xavi Simons, you know, doing stuff in half spaces that our players just can't do. Tell getting into positions to have them two chances that they're both deflections, but the defensive moments of Van de Ven and Romero to cut them moments out don't happen the other way because they're much better than Pascal Struijk. Like, that's just the reality of the matter. So. And if we lose at the weekend, I expect to see something similar from an Emi Buendia or a John McGinn or a Watkins, you know. So again, if that's what we see, we should be coming on here and having a fair, reasonable conversation that Daniel Farke can only do what he can do with what he's got. But we won't. We'll come on and we'll have to defend him against people losing their mind because we lost to a well-established Premier League club in Aston Villa.
Yeah, I mean, that's the brutal truth of it. You know, I mean, at the start of the season, I mean, they looked awful. They looked like they'd gone. You know, people were saying it's Unai Emery third season syndrome. They lost their sporting director. It looked a real mess. And then all of a sudden, it's like it's turned. They're in sixth place, Jay. I mean, it's remarkable, really. When you know how after 3-4 games they were near the bottom. So they've turned it around remarkably. And it's interesting with Villa as well because they use most of the players that were already at the club when Emery arrived. I mean, they're in this interesting thing where they seem to struggle with integrating new players into that squad and making them work like the stalwarts, John McGinn, Watkins and all that. They seem to be struggling to kind of evolve to that next bit, but fundamentally they're established Premier League team that's finished in the top part of the league year on year out under the current manager, and that's a real tough opposition to go against.
Well, their tricky spot was miss out on the Champions League. I can't remember if it was last season or the season before, but the season that they missed out, it then meant that the squad kind of stagnated and they were left in this kind of half position where they had to try and make transfers like Zaniolo work, and even this season with like Jadon Sancho, they've not been able to really improve. They've had to take some educated gambles. Morgan Rogers is the only one that's really come into there and made a difference. The rest, you're right, you're absolutely spot on. The rest of the team is exactly the same. I mean, they've still got some players that were playing in the Championship in there. John McGinn, Ezri Konsa, and a couple of others. So they're a funny squad, mixture of players. I mean, John McGinn's a funny one, isn't it? Like, everything about him tells me they should be crap. But he's not. He's just...
It's wild, isn't it? I know. It's mad, isn't it? You watch watching Scotland the other night, like, but he does the business.
He ambles around like a dad, doesn't he? Yeah, well, he ambles around like a dad, like a really good technical dad in the midfield. He's just, he's a funny player. But yeah, Emery's done a really good job to kind of turn them around. Imagine if they'd have just bolted and sacked him after 4 games or whatever. Like, sometimes you have to stick with what you know is the right remedy. Unfortunately, my gut feeling with Farke from day one, he was never really fully accepted into the club. The Bielsa shadow, the way that he kind of shows up, his football in comparison to Bielsa's football causes a problem. Because it's pragmatic, it's extremely pragmatic in comparison to Bielsa's swashbuckling football. I just think at some point, the fans that have kind of told that line are just going to be right and they're going to get the call. And I worry that it comes at a time where it then will cost us the Premier League position. I genuinely think, I don't know whether he'll keep us up or not, but I genuinely think he has the best possibility to do it.
Yeah.
If the fan base are behind him and the fan base are behind the players.
Yeah, it's when you look at what he's achieved and what he's done, it is strange, isn't it, that he doesn't have more backing. And I honestly think the Norwich thing plays into it as well. People, that Norwich record, it's just there, isn't it? Norwich record and the worst streak of any manager, and
Brownie, you mentioned propaganda earlier. Daniel Farke has a heavy propaganda against him because of what happened at Norwich. He 100% does. Everywhere you see it, the BBC will mention it, Match of the Day will mention it, Sky will mention it. It is constantly drip fed into the ears and the minds of, I'm going to say it, susceptible fans, soft-brained fans. Like, and we are very, what's the word?
Easily manipulated, easily influenced.
Influence is probably the word, and it's hard not to be. It is hard not to be, but that is the reality of the fact. Like, it's no context applied to it whatsoever. Who's slamming Kieran McKenna for last season?
Exactly.
Where's the hair for Kieran McKenna?
That's a great point.
Just like the Norwich team, they came up from League One. I don't think they got insta-promoted. I think it was the season afterwards they got promoted. Where's the hate for Kieran McKenna that Daniel Farke got for getting relegated? And bear in mind, Daniel Farke in that first season kept his job. That tells you the expectations of the club.
Yeah, 100%.
So I don't get it. I don't get it at all. And I think he's so harshly treated at Leeds. And
I think the media. Sorry to interrupt. I think the media have played a part, though. I think, and I'm talking about the institutions as well, because, I were listening to podcasts in the summer where they were already on Farke, they were already, and even going back a couple of years, I remember Adam Crafton, one of the big journalists at The Athletic, and he every now and then he'd fire off a tweet about Farke and, this doesn't look like a well-coached team, and, dropping these little things into people's heads, and it's like, it's bizarre. But then no comment on what he achieved last season. It's like
no balance. Well, before the ball was kicked for Leeds United, there were fans coming out saying, he'll never be able to do in the Premier League. Like, not in the Premier League. Like, they were ready, me and the Me and the missus were talking about this yesterday. Like, unfortunately, now we live in a society that is always angry. We are just surrounded by negativity and anger and frustration and upset, and we can't help but attach ourselves to it. But we become identified with it. We become as one with it, and it's really, really damaging. And again, we talk back to the earlier point of, you know, not enjoying the season. You know, like, what does it serve us?
100%.
I just don't get it.
No, I agree completely. Lou just reminding us here as well. Cheers, mate. The Mighty Mags got that Champions League place because they couldn't beat Man United. Yeah, that's right. I remember that. Yeah, absolutely. Dodgy penalty or something, weren't they? Or sending off or something.
Yeah, I do remember. I remember the
offside goal or something that got ruled off or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, and it's interesting, you know, with the opponents at the weekend, that I put Villa in that same kind of club type as Leeds, where it's a big historic club, big passionate fan base, you know, kind of chaotic at times, crazy. What has happened there is they've got a guy now who's pulling it together, you know, because Villa are right basket case, you know, for years Villa have been, you know, underachieving. I mean, I remember when they had that team under Martin O'Neill that were kind of flying, and he walked out on them, and they had David O'Leary rocked up, and you know, they've had various incarnations of a team, and this is probably the first time I can remember in a long, long time that you've got a competent, competitive, consistent Aston Villa, and it goes to show you kind of, if you get that figurehead, you know how important it is to not just discard it.
100%. I mean, they are a massive club, a Villa. Yeah. It is funny, you're right, because they are a basket case, because there's so many reincarnations of them. They were under George Graham for a bit as well, weren't they? And you know, and then they had
They had some. Tim Sherwood rocked up there, didn't he, for a little bit? I remember. And
I can picture the face of the manager that I'm thinking of during the early 2000s, late 90s, maybe.
Remember Ron Atkinson? He was there, wasn't he? Ron Atkinson.
That would have
been there for a bit. Brian Little, was there?
Brian Little, that were early 90s as well.
Early, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's not what I'm thinking of. I can picture him in my mind. He never did anything anywhere else ever. But he did all right at Villa for a period of time.
That's going to annoy me.
So Lou will know if he's still watching. But I can picture him. I can picture him in my head. And then they had Gerard Houllier. Remember when they had Houllier? And you know, they had some weird concoctions. And then obviously getting relegated, and then you know they were at the bottom of the Championship when Dean Smith turned up. You know, Steve Bruce were there as well, and you know, they remember when they signed Ross McCormack and all that went down, and just bizarre. And then the change with Dean Smith. No, I'm not talking about Martin O'Neill. No. Oh, what's his name? He's gonna drive me mad now. Before Martin O'Neill, 90s. I can see him.
The guy that said he'd have shot John Gregory.
There it is. John Gregory. Yeah. Because then he had a period of time there, didn't he, where he did quite well. And
I swear, can I just say, I said that before I read your comment, Chris.
Yeah, you did. I saw it pop up. Anyway, enough about Villa, but they have had a bit of a journey, haven't they? They've had a bit of they had McLeish as well, and they got him from Birmingham. God.
Lambert as well, Paul Lambert. He was there, he stuck the joint out, I think, didn't he, as well? So they're one of them kind of clubs out there as well. Just in terms of then Jay lineup, a real tricky one as well. Obviously, international breaks. I don't know what the record is, but I think we don't tend to do that well. It feels like international break. I don't know if that's an actual thing or if it's kind of happened a couple of times and then everybody says it happens every time. I'm not too sure. But we were talking about the midfield, and you know, I've said it, you know, again and again, but you know, I considered that to be our strongest part of the team before the start of the season. Now I'm looking at it going, we have 5 players who do a lot of the same stuff. There isn't many options in there. Going into that game, what are you expecting to happen? What would you like to see in terms of personnel?
I find this team really difficult to call, if I'm honest. Really, really difficult to call. I think it's a real tricky situation that we find ourselves in. I think Dan James will come back into the side, played 60-some minutes for Wales. Whether that means Brendan will drop out or not, I'm not sure. Brendan might go somewhere else in the team. I can't see the fact that he'll drop a 10 in this game. So I would imagine it'll be a concoction of Ampadu, Stack, Longstaff and Tanaka. Gruev obviously doesn't start unless he absolutely desperately needs to. So I think Pascal will come back in. I don't want to see that, but I can't argue enough of a case that Biol has earned his place over the 2 games. I do think I've seen bits that are good and there's bits that I've liked, but there's also, we've conceded 6 goals in the 2 games. There definitely was the case that it could be at fault for the second Forest goal. I do think Gabby Goodmanson's got a lot of questions to answer defensively. And I think it's kind of been skirted over because it looks really nice going forward. But the more I've actually analysed the goals, they all come down his side. They're often coming down his side. So we've got some questions to answer there. So I to answer your question, I expect Pascal to come back in. The back 5 will be the same apart from that. I then think that the midfield 3 will be, I think it'll be the same 3. I think it'll be Stack, Ampadu and Longstaff. I would like Tanaka to come in somewhere, but I just don't think he'll do it in this game. I think the midfield is going to need to be where the game's won and lost.
Yeah.
Okafor, I think Calvert-Lewin will come back in, if I'm honest, and James. I think James will come in the right. I know Mecha scored, but the more I've kind of looked at that performance, I don't think he did enough outside of putting the ball in the back.
Falling over and losing the ball.
Yeah. Calvert-Lewin gets us up the pitch, and if Calvert-Lewin's at his best, he offers us far more than Mecha does in the rest of the game. So I think he'll come in.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one. I mean, Skip says here, Bijol plays well in a back 3 for country. I heard that Bijol didn't have a great game.
I've not heard anything.
So I don't know. I don't know what the what the score on that is. But yeah, Bijol's a fascinating one because obviously he got his chance. He had 3 games in, and I think he's been over criticised. I think he's been a little bit over criticised. I think the problem for me has been obviously not picking up runners. We've seen that same goal over and over again. You bang on though, he was at fault for that second goal. You know, he doesn't watch Morgan Gibbs White and he gets away and plants it in the back of the net. You know, I would have liked him to have come in and made a real impact and cemented his place. That's not happened. Like you say, you can't argue that he's cemented his place. So it's, you know, it's going to be up for debate. Does Pascal come back in? I mean, if Pascal comes in, I mean, you know, what are we getting from Pascal that Bijol's not going to be able to provide, do you think? I mean, why would we go to that? Is that just familiarity? Is that just to kind of, I don't know, mix it up? Or
I mean, I think first off the bat, it's really tough to criticise Bijol too much coming in for his debut away at Brighton and then a really pressure cooker game away at Forest. And the rest of the team didn't play well either, especially against Brighton, we were terrible. So I think it's harsh, but to answer your question there, I think obviously familiarity, yes, he's left-footed. I think he's a little bit quicker out of the back line. I think Bijol wants to do it at a little bit of a slower pace. Apart from that, I mean, he's not better at anything, if I'm honest. He's not, but we've just not seen enough of it as of yet. You know my opinions on Pascal. Everybody that's watched this show knows my opinions on Pascal. I'm not going to start gassing up Pascal now that Bijol's had 2 semi-average games. I actually thought Bijol against Brighton was actually pretty good. I'm just going to say, I thought he was fine against Brighton.
I thought the same. I won't look at it going, God, he's awful.
It's just hard to argue anybody that's going to say Pascal should come back in after we've conceded 6 goals. But we were also conceding a ton of goals before. So, it is a tricky one. The one thing I will say is that obviously Pascal's more comfortable on his left side. I don't think Bijol's passing on his left side is bad, but I can see that he carries the ball out of the back line a little bit better. But defensively, he's not better. He's just not. He's not.
No.
So, but I think that Farke might do that. That's what I'm saying. Whether I would do it or not is relevant. I'm saying I think Farke will do that.
Yeah. You mentioned Dan James, and I think this is huge for Dan James if he gets the opportunity to start, because he looked sharp for Wales. He looked kind of, and even when he came on against Forest, just watching him, when you just watch a player, like when I was watching Dan James at the start of the season, it was like I'm watching like 50% Dan James. I'm not watching proper Dan James. But then when he came on against Forest, and how he's played in the international break, he looks to me like he's rediscovered that sharpness. You can see that he looks properly fit, and I'm going to back him for a goal on Sunday. I think he can come in and he can be a bit of a difference maker for us. I think he's at that kind of point where he's 27 now. He's not the young kid anymore. He's not inexperienced. He should be pretty much firing at his full potential. He just needs to deliver. And I think it's going to be fascinating. If he gets in ahead of Aronson, you would suspect it's a massive opportunity for him, isn't it?
100%. I mean, if we can get the Championship Dan James, the one that we've seen for the last 2 seasons, it'll cause players problems because his pace and his directness is a problem for anyone. Premier League defenders are better at dealing with this show, but it's still a problem for him. So yeah, it's a huge game for him. We need that creativity. We need that outlet. I am just going to make a little bit of a point and note as well as to say what a season Harry Wilson's having. And he's typical, isn't he? I mean, we were all kind of skirting over it as being a bit of a nothing signing. He's actually having a hell of a season. He's actually playing really well for Fulham. He's starting most weeks now, which is weird because they wanted rid of him, and then all of a sudden he's now their starting right winger. Scores a hat-trick on the international stage at the weekend. Sure, they're all set pieces, 2 pens and a free kick, but that's what he's capable of. And it's typical because he would have made a real difference. He really would have made a real difference. It'd have been a creative spark in which we don't have anybody like Harry Wilson. We don't. He's not, he's not elite, but he's Premier League level. He's better than Nonto. He's better than Dan James, I would argue, creatively as well. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame, that one, and I think it's gone now.
Well, that's it, because now he's playing so well, and he's in the team every week, and you kind of wonder what happened. Now he got close to doing it anyway, don't you? Really? Noah Okafor, Jay. I think on reflection, a bit of a not a bad performance against Forest or anything, but what I feel when I'm watching Noah Okafor, don't get me wrong, he can be electric. He can be absolutely electric. But he does this thing a few times where he beats his man on his side, or he kind of knocks the ball ahead of him, but then kind of just loses speed, or he looks like he's knackered, basically. Yeah. He kind of ends up, the ball either runs out of play or something like that. And I think with Okafor as well, there were a couple of times when he gave the ball away cheaply, he's trying to do long field passes. And look, I don't want to discourage that. We need players who are going to be willing to do different things. Yeah. But I think let's see a little bit more. I want to see him in a game for 60 minutes. I want to see him going at the defender all the time. And you made a great point during that game as well. Feed him, give him the ball a bit more, find him a bit more, because he's the one who's gonna do it if anyone is.
Some of that's on him as well. Some of that is on him.
I
do think sometimes he hides a little, probably while he's catching a little bit of a breather, and it does feel a little bit with him like when he's in possession of the ball, it feels like it's all him or nothing. It doesn't feel like he links the play. He's capable of beating 3 or 4 players at once, by the way. He's very, very technically gifted. I had somebody the other day, again, this just shows you the moronicness of Twitter. But I had somebody the other day tell me that he's better than Sinistera. And I'm like, you don't know what, you don't know ball. You don't have all, man. I mean, the only thing that you've got with to argue with Sinistera is that he just wasn't available enough. And
100%.
That definitely was the case. But in terms of levels of quality, I mean, Jesus, it is night and day different. Yeah. He's a bit of an enigma, is Noah Okafor, and we need him in the team. But at the same time, if he's not on it, it will offer us very, very little. He's not like Rafinha, where, obviously Rafinha's a different level altogether, but Rafinha could have a bad game individually or an off game individually, but it would link play. He would work his nuts off. Defensively, he was so tough as well to deal with. And he was always had the energy levels of going for 95 minutes. Yeah. Okafor just seems to be either the Wolves performance or the Forest one. Yeah. There doesn't seem to be any in between.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, obviously when we came up to the Premier League, Rafinha was the star quality, the magic maker, and Sinisterra took on that mantle after, but like you say, due to just not being available and the injuries, wasn't able to give us 30-odd performances. You know, I think when Marsh got sacked, he was out injured at that point, you know, and he wasn't able to be there. And I don't see Okafor as that. When I watch Okafor, you see little bursts and little glimpses of potentially that. I remember against Spurs, he did a fantastic run where he kind of dribbled it through. But Sinisterra, you know, Rafinha particularly were levels. And it feels like, I mean, it would be fascinating, you know, if there was ever a kind of behind-the-scenes documentary of this summer transfer window when it was decided to go for Okafor and what the feeling was behind that. Because that's what this side is really desperately short of, isn't it? I mean, even like you mentioned about Harry Wilson, just someone who can just do that bit of quality, you know, that bit of final ball quality. I think we're really lacking it. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully he can step up. Hopefully he can be a little bit more, you know, in the Rafinha and Sinisterra model. He's never going to hit those heights, but if he can at least try and be a bit more consistent, I think we need that as a minimum, really.
He is the X factor. He definitely is the X factor. What we're going to say now? I was going to say something. It's gone. I was. This isn't what I was going to say. I'll see if it comes back to me while I'm just saying this. But I was watching the. It popped up on my YouTube algorithm. The Manchester United 2, Leeds 2, when we went 2-0 up at Old Trafford. Scoobs his first game, and funnily enough, I mean, the team that day was strong. It was fairly strong that went out that day, and Sinisterra pulls up injured after about 8 minutes of that game. And then we don't see him again for much. I don't even know.
No, we did we? No, I don't think we did we? No.
He gets injured in that game, and he's just, it's interesting, these kind of sliding doors moments, I guess. Somerville comes on, ends up having a big part in the second goal, and you know, so it is one of them things. But yeah, Sinisterra was definitely levels, and it's just getting that out of Okafor consistently. Oh, that's what I was going to say. It's come back to me now. I definitely agree with you with this transfer. I think Okafor I don't think he was really on the sheet. No. I think he played against us in that game. It was somebody that we'd been interested in before. The 49ers probably clocked, wondered whether he was available, and thought, why don't we go down that route against him as Manor Solomon's, you know, not coming, or we were looking for somebody better than Manor Solomon. We think he is it. We'll go down that route instead. I mean, I'm not hating on Okafor. I think his ceiling might be a bit higher than Manor Solomon's if you can get the full version of him all the time. But and from a consistent point of view, Manor Solomon would have been the signing. I mean, to be honest, we probably should have got both of them. We should have probably got both of them.
I think, I mean, the Manor Solomon, the more the season goes on, the more I'm scratching my head why that didn't get done days after promotion. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it, because you know, he's ended up on loan to Villarreal. There's a rumor that might be getting cancelled, by the way.
Really?
So I don't know if there's some opportunity to maybe bring him back. And I'm like, just do it. If we get an opportunity to get Manor Solomon, for me, I think you just do it, because he's played in the Leeds environment, yes, at championship level, but he was so head and shoulders above everyone else. I think, you know, if that could translate to the Premier League and just improve us.
Propaganda.
Really surprised we didn't do it, Jem. Really, the more the season goes on, the more I'm surprised we didn't do that one.
Propaganda stream again, like it is the word of the day. But again, if he was English and he'd come through the Spurs ranks and he came and did what he did last season, he would have been heralded as one of the best loan signings we've ever had. Yet because of his culture and his beliefs and where he comes from and the slander that were put on him, I'll never forget it. When that transfer was rumoured, obviously you had the injury concern as well, and the fact that it were on 50 grand a week and all the rest of it. That definitely made a small part of it. But the vitriol that we saw, the noise, the disgusting things that people said, it blew my tiny little mind, if I'm honest. And it carried with him through his whole loan. And some people, no matter how good he performed, the fact that he even won us the title, they couldn't let it go. There was it weren't that great. Ramazani better.
Should have played Ramazani.
Makes me sick.
It's mad. Well, just before we wrap up then, Jay, prediction for Sunday, what are we going to be saying on stream after? Are we going to be happy or sad? I mean, hand on heart, how do you see it going?
I thought about this a lot this week. I've thought about it a lot. I think we'll lose 2-1.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going with.
Do you think it'll be?
I think it'll be spirited. I think the performance will be fine. I wouldn't be shocked to see us win the game. I think we're capable of winning any game at home. But I think they're in a rich vein of form. I think they've got players that can hurt us. I think it'll be tough. And again, I'm just realistic. I just expect us to lose games to top sides. Yeah. And I think that's what will happen. And I think the noise will be horrendous. But the performance and the result won't be bad enough that he'll get sacked.
Yeah.
No matter how bad the noise. Now, if we're 3-0 down at half time, the noise in Ellen Road will be so bad that I think this board are a bit capable of this. I think the decision could be made that night if it was that bad on the day. But I just don't think that'll be the case. I don't think this group of players have got throwing it in them.
No.
Not at Ellen Road, especially. So I hope we can win. I think there's a chance that we can get something from the game. I think we're good enough at home to do that. But my brain tells me we'll probably lose this game 2-1.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of I'm flip flopping, to be honest. I either one part of me thinks it's going to be the nightmare game where we're a 3-0 down at half time and it's just burn it all down to the ground kind of thing. Another part of me sees a Dan James winner. It really does. It sees Dan James nicking it. But I hope it's competitive. I hope, Ellen Road is buzzing. There's optimism in the air and we give it as best. I think it's huge for Farke. I think it's absolutely massive for Farke. I agree with you. I think if we play well and we lose, despite that noise is just going to grow and intensify. But we've really got to ask ourselves as fans, is that helping the situation, creating this level of noise? And we'll wait and see.
The fan base are going to play a massive part on Sunday. Yeah. Massive part. If they get behind the boys and they really make Ellen Road hostile, they can drive that team over the line. But if they've made the decision when they turn up that we're going to lose and that Daniel Farke should go, we'll probably lose.
Yeah. I'm backing the Ellen Road crowd, I think, for the weekend. I think they'll turn up. I will be there. I will be one of them. So I'll do my part. Good stuff. Well, I want to thank everybody who has got in touch over the show and got comments in. And if you've not liked the video already, if you could please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to share the video share the link, that will be much appreciated as well. Myself and Jay we're still to organise it, but we will at some point give our thoughts post Aston Villa as well. So please do stay tuned to that. But apart from that, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.